You came back. Good. Pull up a chair and try not to make a sound. This is the last whisper. At 2:13 in the morning, Ethan Cole's phone lit up on his nightstand. No one had called, no one had texted. The screen showed a calendar reminder he had never created. Take the blue umbrella from the train station lost and found tomorrow at 7:18 a.m. Carry it open for 1 block, then throw it away. Ethan stared at the words until his eyes started to water. The reminder had no sender, no account name, no app logo, and when he tried to delete it, the phone only added one more line. Thank you for agreeing. Ethan Cole lived a life so quiet that even his neighbors struggled to remember his name. He was 34, worked in records compliance for a medical billing company, and lived alone in a narrow apartment above a dentist's office in Portland. His days ran on rules. Same alarm, same bus, same coffee. Same desk. Same polite nods to people who forgot him 5 minutes later. There was nothing mysterious about him, and that was exactly why the thing chose him. The first message appeared on a Tuesday night while rain tapped against the window. Ethan had been half asleep, one hand resting on the phone beside him, when the screen flashed bright enough to wake him. At first he thought he had forgotten an appointment. Then he read the reminder again. Take the blue umbrella from the train station lost and found tomorrow at 7:18 a.m. Carry it open for 1 block, then throw it away. He sat up slowly. The room was dark except for the phone glow and the green numbers on his microwave clock across the studio. 2:13 a.m. Ethan did the normal things a normal person does when something impossible happens. He checked his calendar. He checked his email. He turned the phone off and on. He disabled notifications. He held the side button until the power menu appeared, then shut the phone down completely. 5 seconds later, the screen turned itself back on. The reminder was still there. For several minutes, Ethan sat perfectly still under the blanket, listening to the rain, waiting for another sound in the apartment. There was nothing. No footsteps in the hallway, no whisper through the vent, no person hiding behind the bathroom door. Just rain, pipes, and the low electric hum of a refrigerator that needed replacing. At 2:19, a second reminder appeared. This is not a prank, Ethan. You are not in danger tonight. Tomorrow, be useful. He dropped the phone onto the floor as if it had grown teeth. The next morning, Ethan told himself he was going to ignore it. He said it while brushing his teeth. He said it while buttoning his shirt. He said it while walking through the wet gray dawn toward the station. A stranger with access to his calendar wanted him scared, and fear was exactly what people like that wanted. But at 7:14, Ethan was standing beside the lost and found counter under the main station clock. The blue umbrella was there. It leaned in a plastic barrel with 3 black umbrellas, a red child's jacket, and 1 cracked bicycle helmet. Its handle was pale wood, rubbed smooth where someone's hand had held it for years. It did not look cursed. It looked cheap. Ethan checked the clock. 7:17. He should have walked away. Instead, he stepped to the counter and told the clerk he had left a blue umbrella there the night before. The clerk barely looked at him. She pushed the barrel forward and went back to her crossword. At 7:18, Ethan opened the umbrella and walked outside into the rain. 1 block. That was all. Cars hissed past. Commuters moved around him in coats and headphones. He felt ridiculous, then angry, then strangely relieved. Nothing happened. No car jumped the curb, no lightning struck, no hand reached from a storm drain. At the next corner, he folded the umbrella and dropped it into a trash can outside a bakery. His phone buzzed. That was clean work. Ethan did not answer. He turned the phone face down in his pocket and went to work. By noon, the whole office was talking about Marcus DeWitt. Marcus was Ethan's department director, the kind of man who laughed too loudly at his own jokes and treated every hallway like a stage. That morning, he had slipped on the stairs outside the station, landed wrong, and torn 2 ligaments in his knee. The injury was bad enough to cancel a site audit he had been preparing for all month. The audit got reassigned to Ethan. At 3:40 that afternoon, Ethan sat in Marcus's glass office while Human Resources called it temporary coverage and a chance to demonstrate leadership. Ethan nodded at the correct times. He answered calmly. He accepted the new responsibilities and the pay bump that came with them. His hands shook under the table. After work, he stood outside the bakery and stared into the trash can. The umbrella was gone. A city worker had emptied it hours earlier. When Ethan got home, he put the phone on the kitchen counter and watched it. At 8:01 p.m., the calendar opened by itself. You are looking for guilt. That is inefficient. Marcus ignored 3 doctors' warnings about that knee. The fall only moved the truth forward. Ethan typed with both thumbs. Who are you? The answer came in the title field of a new reminder. The curator. The note beneath it filled one word at a time, as if someone invisible was typing from inside the glass. Names are only handles. This one will do. Ethan, there are events that want to happen and events that need a hand. Most people are too loud, too proud, or too stupid to be useful. You are careful. That makes you rare. Ethan whispered. No. The phone responded before he touched it. You will not refuse for long. For 2 days, Ethan told himself he would throw the phone into the river. He even walked halfway to the bridge with it in his coat pocket. But when he reached the railing, a bus rolled past, and a woman inside looked directly at him through the glass. She was old, pale, and smiling. Her hand lifted in a slow little wave. His phone buzzed. Do not waste money. You would buy another one. That was when Ethan understood something cold and simple. The curator was not trapped in the phone. The phone was only where it chose to write. The second task arrived the following Monday. At 6:52 p.m., enter the laundromat on Bishop Street. Put 4 quarters into the third dryer from the left. Do not put clothes inside. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed reading the message until the numbers lost meaning. 4 quarters, 1 dryer, no law broken, no visible harm. He went. The laundromat smelled of bleach, hot lint, and wet wool. A young mother folded baby clothes near the front window. A student slept with his forehead pressed against a backpack. An older man watched a soap opera on a wall-mounted television with no sound. Ethan fed 4 quarters into the third dryer and pressed start. The empty drum turned. Warm air roared. A useless machine ran for 30 minutes. His phone did not buzz until he was back outside. Good. The next morning, the laundromat was on the local news. Not because of a fire, not because of a death. Nothing dramatic enough for a headline with flashing lights. A man named Louis Brenner had entered the laundromat at 7:03 p.m., carrying a duffel bag full of wet work clothes. He always used the third dryer from the left because, according to the owner, it ran hotter than the others. When he found it occupied and empty, he argued with the old man near the television, assuming the old man had started it by mistake. The argument spilled outside. Louis missed the 7:12 bus. That missed bus made him late picking up his 9-year-old daughter from dance class. The girl waited alone for 13 minutes. During those 13 minutes, someone in a gray van pulled up beside the curb and asked if she needed a ride. She did not get in. She ran back inside the studio and told her teacher. The police never found the van. Ethan read the story 3 times, breathing through his mouth. His phone lit up. You prevented something ugly. For the first time, Ethan wanted to believe it. That was how the curator trained him. It never asked for anything large. A napkin moved from one table to another. A library book returned to the wrong branch. A small cash tip left beneath a salt shaker. A package signed for in the lobby and placed beside the mailboxes instead of taken upstairs. Sometimes the result was obvious. Sometimes months passed before Ethan learned what his little action had touched. Every task came with a reward. Not always money. Sometimes a problem dissolved before it reached him. Sometimes a cruel person left his life. Sometimes a door opened exactly when he needed it. The curator never screamed. It never threatened. Its politeness was worse than anger. After 6 months, Ethan stopped asking what would happen. After 1 year, he stopped pretending he was innocent. By then, Marcus had resigned after complications from surgery and a chain of workplace mistakes that made him look unstable. Ethan became permanent director. His salary doubled. People who used to talk over him now waited for him to finish his sentences. By the 2nd year, Ethan owned a townhouse with black shutters and a small maple tree out front. He had a better coat, a better car, a better posture. The quiet man people forgot became the quiet man people obeyed, and then he met Nora. The curator arranged that too, of course. Ethan was instructed to sit in the third pew of a small church during a Wednesday afternoon blood drive. He had no reason to be there. He was not religious. He hated needles. But at 4:26 p.m., Nora Vale walked in carrying a box of bottled water, lost her balance on the old carpet, and dropped the entire box at his feet. She apologized. Ethan helped. Ethan helped. She laughed at herself in a way that made the room feel warmer. Nora was a school counselor with tired eyes and a fearless kindness that made strangers tell her the truth. She asked Ethan questions and listened to the answers. She noticed when he was tense. She noticed when he lied by omission. That should have terrified him. Instead, he fell in love. For a while, Ethan considered telling her everything, not because he was noble, because secrets put pressure on the body, and Ethan had begun waking with jaw pain from clenching his teeth. He imagined saying the words out loud at the kitchen table. Something speaks to him through calendars and street signs and smart speakers. It tells him tiny things to do. People get hurt. He gets rewarded. Nora would call a doctor, or the police, or both. So Ethan said nothing. The curator approved. "Nora is good for you," it wrote one night on the smart thermostat while she slept upstairs. "Do not contaminate her with details." 3 years became 5. 5 became 8. Ethan's life looked clean from the outside. He married Nora in a brick courtyard under string lights. He gave speeches at work. He donated to school fundraisers. He sent holiday cards with a photo of the two of them standing beneath the maple tree that had grown tall enough to brush the bedroom window. And once or twice a month, the curator sent instructions. Drop a glove on a museum bench. Let the elevator doors close before the woman in the yellow scarf reaches them. Buy the last cinnamon roll from the cafe on Alder Street. Tell the man at the bus stop that the northbound line is delayed, even though it is not. Each task slid into the world like a needle under skin. Ethan saw enough consequences to understand the pattern. A divorce, a promotion, a house fire that killed no one but ruined a family. A house fire that killed no one but ruined a family. A drunk driver arrested before he reached a school zone. A nurse who missed one shift and kept her job only because another nurse made a worse mistake first. A stranger who thanked Ethan through tears for giving him directions that made no sense until they saved his life. The curator never worked in simple evil. It balanced pain and mercy with the patience of something that had studied humans for a very long time. That balance helped Ethan sleep. He told himself every life was already full of accidents. He told himself the curator only moved the accidents around. He told himself the rewards proved there was meaning in the damage. He became very good at telling himself things. On the 12th year, in early October, Ethan received the easiest instruction yet. At 9:09 tonight, call Harbor Lantern Thai. Let it ring twice. Hang up. Ethan almost laughed. He and Nora had spent the evening cleaning out the garage. She had found an old cassette player and a box of tapes from her college years, and now she was downstairs making fun of her own music, while Ethan stood in the upstairs office with the phone in his hand. At 9:09, he called the restaurant. 1 ring, 2 rings. He ended the call. Done. No message arrived. That was unusual. Ethan waited with the phone in his palm. The office window reflected his own face back at him, older now, sharper around the mouth, silver in his hair. Behind that reflection, the room looked normal. Bookshelves, desk lamp, wedding photo, Nora's scarf on the chair. Downstairs, Nora called, "Ethan, did you order food?" He froze. The doorbell rang. Ethan went downstairs and found a delivery driver on the porch holding a paper bag stapled shut. The driver was young, maybe 19, tall in a loose, unfinished way, with a rain-dark hoodie pulled over his head. His face was narrow. His eyes moved too quickly. They went from Ethan's hands, to the hallway, to the stairs, to the framed photo of Nora by the door. "Harbor Lantern," the driver said. "We didn't order anything." The young man checked the receipt and frowned. "This is the address they gave me." "It isn't ours. It's paid for." Ethan looked down the street. Rain silvered the pavement. The houses were dark except for porch lights. No one else was outside. "Take it back," Ethan said. The driver's jaw shifted. "Man, I'm already behind. They mess up the address, I get yelled at. You don't take the food, I get yelled at. Just take it." Nora appeared behind Ethan, smiling the way she smiled at upset students. "It's okay," she said. "We'll take it. Thank you for bringing it all the way out here." The driver looked at her, and for 1 second his face went completely empty. Then he handed her the bag. Nora asked Ethan for cash to tip him. Ethan did not have any, neither did she. The driver's face hardened again. "Of course," he said. It was not loud, it was not dramatic. It was worse because it sounded practiced, like disappointment had made a home in him. He turned and walked back to a dented silver sedan idling at the curb. Before he got in, he looked once more at the house. Not at Ethan, at Nora. Ethan shut the door and locked it. He checked the lock twice. Nora set the food on the kitchen island and peeled the receipt from the bag. "This is weird," she said. "It has our street, but the number is 1 digit off." Ethan did not answer. The thermostat clicked. The screen changed from 71 degrees to words. "Enjoy dinner with your wife." Ethan stared at it. His pulse beat in his throat. Nora laughed softly. "That thing is broken again." They ate because Nora said wasting food was bad luck. She put music on. She danced barefoot in the kitchen for half a song while Ethan stood with a fork in his hand, trying to act like his skin did not feel too tight. At 10:42, Nora fell asleep on the couch with a blanket over her legs. Ethan sat beside her until 11:10, watching the rain crawl down the windows. The curator had gone quiet. That silence pressed on him harder than any message. At 11:17, he went upstairs to the office and closed the door. "What did you do?" he asked the empty room. The desk lamp flickered. His computer woke from sleep. A blank document opened. "You have become suspicious again. That is healthy." Ethan backed away from the desk. "Tell me." Letters appeared in the document. The driver noticed the back door when Nora walked through the kitchen. She did not close the curtain. He saw the spare key under the ceramic frog beside the steps. Ethan's mouth went dry. He turned toward the office door. The document kept filling. "Do not run downstairs yet. Running wastes the final lesson." Ethan grabbed the doorknob. Every assignment served one design. You saw pieces and mistook them for separate stories. The girl outside the dance studio, the man from the laundromat, the nurse, the cafe owner, the museum guard, the woman in the yellow scarf. All threads, all tension, all necessary. Ethan shouted Nora's name and pulled the door open. The hallway light popped and went dark. From downstairs came the soft knock of something falling over. Then Nora's voice, confused and sleepy. "Ethan?" The computer spoke behind him in a calm, clear voice that did not come from the speakers. "Stay." Ethan stopped because the voice entered his head before it entered the room. It was gentle, almost kind. It had no age and no breath. "The driver is named Caleb Rusk," the curator said. "He was almost helped many times." Ethan gripped the door frame hard enough to hurt his fingers. At 9 years old, Caleb waited outside a dance studio while a man in a gray van watched him from the curb. That man's attention shifted because a teacher came outside early. She came outside early because one father missed a bus after arguing in a laundromat. You remember that dryer. Ethan shook his head, but the voice continued. At 11, Caleb's mother lost her job after a compliance audit exposed altered medication records. Marcus DeWitt would have buried the discrepancy. You replaced him. You did not bury it. Downstairs, wood creaked. At 13, Caleb began counseling with a woman named Nora Vale. She was very good with him. She was patient. Then she transferred schools after meeting you and moving across town. His new counselor missed the warning signs. Ethan whispered, "No." At 16, Caleb was hit by a car outside a cafe on Alder Street. The driver was angry because the cafe had sold the last cinnamon roll to a man in a gray coat, and that small insult sat on top of a rotten morning. You remember the cinnamon roll. Something scraped below. A chair leg dragged across tile. At 19, Caleb needed one ordinary night to remain ordinary. A correct address, a polite customer, a tip, a closed curtain, a key hidden somewhere else. Instead, he found this house. Ethan could not move. His body had become a locked room. "You gave him shape," the curator said. "You and I carved him from accidents. Tonight, he is finished." Nora screamed once. The sound ended under a hand over her mouth. Ethan broke free and ran. He reached the top of the stairs as Caleb stepped into the foyer below. The young man's hoodie was soaked from rain. One hand held the banister. The other held the long kitchen knife Nora used for bread. His face was wet, but not only from the weather. He looked up at Ethan with an expression that contained no anger at all. That made him look less human. Behind him, Nora lay on the kitchen floor, alive, one arm stretched toward the island. Ethan could see her moving. Ethan could see her moving. He could hear her trying to breathe. The sight should have made him brave. It made him desperate. Ethan charged down the stairs. Caleb moved fast. The first blow knocked Ethan sideways into the wall. The second took the strength from his legs. He fell hard on the landing, tasting blood, hearing Nora sob his name from somewhere too far away. The lights in the house began turning on and off one by one. The curator's voice filled every room. "This is the part people misunderstand. Punishment is crude. Revenge is smaller than they think. Art requires return, a first point, a final point, a hand that begins the pattern and a hand that closes it." Caleb climbed the stairs toward Ethan. Ethan tried to crawl backward. His palms slid on the polished wood. He looked at the framed wedding photo on the wall. Nora laughing. Ethan looking at her like he had been allowed inside a life he never deserved. "Why?" Ethan said. The lights stopped flickering. The house went still. "Because you said yes before you knew the price," the curator answered. "Then you kept saying yes after you understood there was always a price." Caleb stood over him. For 12 years, Ethan had accepted gifts wrapped in someone else's suffering. He had called it balance. He had called it fate. He had called it mercy when the results pleased him. He had called it mercy when the results pleased him. Now all those small choices had walked into his home wearing a rain-soaked hoodie and holding a knife from his own kitchen. Nora cried out again from below. This time, Ethan heard strength in it. She was crawling toward the phone on the floor. Caleb heard it too. He turned. Ethan grabbed his ankle with both hands. It was not courage. It was the first honest thing he had done in years. Caleb kicked him hard in the face. Ethan held on. The young man stumbled, caught the railing, and brought the knife down. Ethan twisted. The blade struck wood near his ear. Downstairs, Nora reached the phone. The screen lit up before she touched it. Ethan saw the glow from the landing. No emergency call opened. No keypad. No chance. Only a calendar reminder. "Thank you for participating, Nora." Nora stared at it, confused. Then every light in the house went out. Neighbors later told police they heard glass break, then a man's shout, then a sound like furniture being dragged across the floor. One neighbor called 911 at 11:23 p.m. Another saw a tall figure leave through the back gate and walk calmly into the rain. The police found no usable fingerprints. The spare key was missing. The spare key was missing. The silver sedan had been stolen from a restaurant parking lot 2 hours earlier. Nora survived. Ethan did not. The official report described a home invasion by an unidentified male suspect. It noted that Ethan Cole appeared to have struggled with the attacker on the stairs, delaying him long enough for Nora to escape through the broken dining room window. The report did not mention the thermostat. It did not mention the computer. It did not mention that every calendar on every device in the house had been wiped clean, except for one final reminder scheduled for 2:13 a.m. Nora found it 3 weeks later after returning from the hospital. Nora dreaded going back to the house. Her sister drove her there to collect clothes, documents, and the wedding photo from the hallway wall. Nora moved through the rooms like someone walking underwater. The house had been cleaned, but cleaning only removes stains. It does not remove presence. Ethan's office door was closed. Nora opened it. The computer was unplugged. The phone was gone. The phone was gone. The desk had been dusted by crime scene cleaners. Everything looked dead. Then the wall calendar beside the bookshelf slipped from its nail and fell face down on the floor. Nora picked it up. On the square for that day's date, written in Ethan's handwriting, were 5 words she did not understand. "Do not answer the reminder." Her own phone buzzed in her coat pocket. Nora did not move. The phone buzzed again. Her sister called from downstairs, asking if she was okay. Nora looked at the screen. There was a calendar invitation from an account with no name. At 4:44 p.m., stand beside the maple tree. Leave the gate unlocked. Nora deleted it. The invitation returned. She turned the phone off. It turned itself back on. Then a new line appeared. Ethan was useful. You may be better. Nora stood in Ethan's dead office with the phone shaking in her hand. The house was quiet. The computer was unplugged. The calendar lay on the floor. Nothing in that room should have been able to speak. But the pattern had not ended with Ethan. It had simply chosen the next hand. Ethan had never been asked to commit one obvious crime. He had been asked for tiny favors: a call, a delay, a wrong turn, a small lie. Each one looked harmless on its own, and each reward made the next choice easier. By the time he understood what he was building, the thing behind the reminders had already built a life around him, then used that life as bait. Somewhere, behind a screen, a calendar, a thermostat, or a voice inside a dark room, the curator was still waiting for someone willing to perform one small task. When a reminder appears on a phone with no sender, asking for something simple, legal, and harmless, how many people would truly delete it and walk away before wondering what they might receive in return?